Be loud.
Welcome everyone to the Wednesday night live show. Yeah, there's a familiar face right there. He's back. And who is that guy? If you've forgotten, that is Sir Charles. Sir Charles is back with us. I mean, I have been going crazy not be able to hit that right there. I was like, I need Charles back. I need to be able to hit the knight in shining armor right there that we know he is.
Speaking of which,
you've been knighted.
The rumors of my death have been greatly exaggerated. There is a connection. Connecticut Yankee and King Arthur's Court, right?
Yeah. Well, you know, when you said that, my mind went to all the old bogus, this person died, and it starts this frenzy, and everybody goes over to Google, and they're trying to find out if he's alive or dead,
Yeah.
Oh, man. Michelle,
we see your post.
Yeah, we see it. It could be.
Oh, yeah.
It could be AI. It could
really?
be
AI. My obsessive social media presence.
Yeah.
Yes, always. Thank God.
Always.
I appreciate you more than you ever will know.
Yeah, me too. I like seeing your post, and I have to get myself back into Twitter mode or X mode, whatever you want to call it these days. But yeah, I just kind of stepped away from there a little bit and kind of trying to work my way back in there. I think I needed a break a little bit, and I took a little break to get away from it. But I'm slowly getting back in there. For me, I don't want to say it is the most credible news you can find, but it's pretty close. I think it's pretty close, and I think you get a little bit of both worlds when you're on X. You're getting a little bit of a conservative talk, you get a little bit of liberal talk, you get a little bit of fascist talk, you get a little bit of communist talk, you get everything on X. So I just needed a break. I needed a break from there.
It's better now that we've got the community notes.
Yeah,
because
I like that.
Now it kind of points out that the BS. I mean, not all of it, but for us.
Yeah. Also I like what I've noticed is it's being used elsewhere, and not just in the vaping world. It's being used elsewhere, and it's good to see that other people are using it for misinformation that's out there, whether you're talking about vaping or the presidency or all that stuff. I mean, it's good that people are using it for what it's there for. Phillip will be joining us shortly. Tim is under the weather. And Allison is still potty training a little puppy dog that refuses to go outside potty. So
spoiled already, I'm sure.
Like a child. I say just throw a diaper on it, right, Charles? Just throw a diaper on the dog and let him just roam the house.
You have to be very patient with that stuff. As I was with my children.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we do with our kids. I mean, don't they have pull-ups for dogs? I gotta assume they got pull-ups for dogs.
Like
they do.
Any invention that you can think of, somebody's already.
So there's a patent out there for pull-ups for dogs. I'm sure there is.
There is, yeah,
I'm sure there is. What we're going to talk about today, because Charles here, I credit Charles for being one of the smartest guys I know. And so I wanted to talk. He's shaking his head. Yes, John, I am. Thank you.
I'm a smart guy. Yeah, right.
He is. He's got a PhD in something, people. He's ready. I wanted to talk a little bit, I think, the myths that come with vaping. And I think it's still something that is crippling this industry, even into 2025. And yes, some of the stuff is super old, popcorn lung, all this other nonsense. It's still here. So I wanted to kind of go through a few of the things that, and I'll put the list up there, and it's a what is this? Who does this belong to? It's a vaping I'm not sure who actually made this, but I'll put it up on the screen here. Share screen. Oh wait, I can't do that. I gotta ask how your week's going first.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
Charles, how's your week going, Charles?
Other than that, I broke a tooth and I had to go to the dentist yesterday. I now look like an extremely low income, possibly unhomed person. I'm fine.
Do you hear this music playing? Oh man. Hey man, I've done it. I was going to tell you my story on how I broke mine and eating a Jack in the Box taco when I broke my tooth. Of all things, a Jack in the Box taco. And mine was emergency. Like I had to go directly from work to a dentist. I was in that much pain. And plus, I couldn't keep my eyes open. My head was just throbbing. And that's the last thing you want a guy driving a fuel truck with 8,000 gallons of gas. Yeah, exactly. I pulled the truck over. I was like, can't do this.
And I was, when I lived in Switzerland, I also broke a tooth. And that's more than 10 years ago. And I went to the dentist, and I have to say the Swiss health system is like light years better than the U.S. system. Yeah, I paid half as much for twice as good care. Mm-hmm. But so the dentist, he looks at my tooth and he says, "Well, how did you break this while you were riding your bicycle?" And I said, "Well, I didn't break this while I was riding my bicycle." And he said, "No. Tell me how you broke this while you were riding."
Yeah.
I get it.
Oh,
good.
See, I'm a little slow. Like, oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
That car cut me off. Italy is the same way. When I was in Rome and my son got bit by something, I don't know what it was. We were at the Colosseum and he got bit by some bug, and his whole arm just swelled up like this huge bug. Wow. So we got the pharmacia. Went to the pharmacia, and the doctor looked at it and gave him some cream and said it was okay. And I said, "Well, how much?" And he goes, "Nothing." And I go, "No, I got to give you something." He goes, "Nope, not a dime." And I was like, "Okay," I still left like 10 or 15 euros there for espresso. I said, "Go get an espresso or something." I can't. I'm an American. I can't not pay for this service. You know what I mean? It's just like I got to do this. Come back to haunt me. But yeah, no, it'd be nice to have something like that here. Michelle, how's your week going?
It's going real good. The snow finally melted, and I warmed up, and we're almost hit 70 today. So back in Florida, I'm ready.
Yeah. Isn't it nuts that they got snow over there, Charles, in wonderful
we got
Florida?
4 inches.
Yeah, actually, it is. I saw photographs from Florida.
It's crazy.
I feel bad for the poor alligators. I feel bad for the poor alligators, just with their snouts sticking out of the water, trying to stay warm. I don't know. That's just my.
It's all right. They're good. They're good. Yeah. They got thick skin for a reason,
Yeah.
They made it through the last 200 million years.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I think they're good. Well, let me say hello to everybody in the chat. Mallory, hello, Mallory. Robert's out there. Who else is out there? I got to scroll. Rifleman is out there. James R. I'm not gonna do the R. And Steve, welcome everyone, and a few others. Don't be shy. Say hello. And Charles is back with us. So, like I said, I got the smartest man in the vaping industry right now. He's going to help us go through that. And Dean, all the way from the UK. Hello, Dean. So I'm going to hit you with the first. I'm going to hit you with the first one. Myth number 1. Charles, you ready? I don't have it. Do I have a drum roll? Hold on. I got to see if I have a drum roll.
Wait. I was doing a Trump thing, wasn't I?
Yeah, I don't think I have a drum roll. I feel bad. Drums.
There you go. You got to do it a little off.
Drums, overlays. I got overlays. I got video clips. I've got no drum roll. Sorry. I need to. Oh, wait, look. E-cigarettes and vaping devices safer than conventional cigarettes. Fact, e-cigarettes are unsafe for kids, teens, and young adults. Most e-cigarettes contain nicotine, which is highly addictive and can harm adolescent brain development, which continues into their early mid-20s. Vaping products have health risks, and most contain nicotine, which is highly addictive. This product are also unsafe for pregnant women. Adults, non-smokers should not start vaping or using any other tobacco product. Currently, the long-term effects of e-cigarettes are unsafe, is not known. Charles, your thoughts?
The risk of sounding like a broken record.
Yeah.
There's so much to unpack there, right?
Yeah.
I think, like, stepping 3 steps back, I think because I've been like a Twitter fiend for 7 years.
Yeah.
I've seen a definite shift in the messaging from what I increasingly call harm reduction deniers.
Yeah.
And so they're willing to say safer, comma, but not safe.
Right.
So they all, like, in their heart of hearts, they know this thing is safe.
Yeah, I started hearing the word probably a lot now. I noticed probably being used a lot.
There's a lot of waffle language. Science is full of that, actually. So these results suggest that blah, blah, blah. Scientists have been doing that for decades. It allows you to get away with suggesting things that you actually think are true.
Yeah.
But you're not completely sure. And that's the way science is supposed to work. So the thing is, safer but not safe is it kind of highlights like something really weird about tobacco control, which is, why is that the only field of public health where safer but not safe, that is, the goalpost is 100% safe?
Yeah.
What? And if you think of any medicine, any vaccine, like, have you read the small print about the side effects?
Oh my God. Yeah.
They all, like, so the regulators are constantly weighing the benefits against the potential risks.
Right.
That's like a thing we do. And of course there are some risks.
Yeah. Well, I don't know the science behind that. I mean, I don't know what the FDA considers okay if for this amount of the population compared to the side effects that may cause it. I mean, I don't know what the mathematics are. Do you know if there's a set number that the FDA says? You do know it. So is there like a number they say if it's good for 75% of the people, but not the 25, is that something that's done with the FDA?
Ultimately, for the panels or committees that the FDA convenes to make these recommendations to the FDA, it's a subjective thing.
Yeah.
Right. But to feed them the best evidence that they can possibly get, a lot of computer modeling is done.
Yeah.
Like it's a drug. The population has never used it before. So we have no idea how many people are going to use it and so on.
Yeah.
So there are estimates, there are projections, there are basically a lot of assumptions that go into the modeling, and the model is only as good as those assumptions.
Yeah.
Ultimately later reflect actual reality.
Yeah. I have a quick question concerning this first statement, and that's the nicotine part of it. Why isn't there studies out there, or why aren't not just social media, but other magazines or newsletters that are medical fields share the information with the general public of what nicotine is good for and what it's bad for?
So I've been saying this for years. You remember, well, No, you don't. So, well, you do remember, so the National Academies of Sciences and Engineering and Medicine produced this pretty pivotal report on e-cigarettes.
Yeah.
And that's like, what, 4 years ago or something? Or actually, in the accent of my absolute favorite mentor in my career, who was Mexican, pivotal. It was a pivotal study. And that's great. And almost the same time, like our 2017 or 28, I think it was 2017, the NASEM, National Academies of Sciences, produced a report on the health effects of cannabis and cannabinoids. So they looked at the potential harms and the potential health benefits. And they looked at, this is like a 2-year process.
Yeah.
Hundreds of people, experts are involved, and they review every study that's ever been published. And it's unbelievable to me that we don't have a similar NASEM report on nicotine. Like, okay, are there some potential risks? What are they? And are there potential health therapeutic nicotine benefits? What are they? Because right now, all there are like dozens and dozens and dozens of relatively small studies. Like, we slapped nicotine patches on these 36 people, and their thought processes improved, and they had less stress and less anxiety.
Yeah.
Oh, and they lost 5 kilos.
Yeah. I was too late. I was too late for my dad. My dad was too far along in his dementia to get him on that little program that they were doing out here at I think it was Stanford or one of the hospitals with the patch and dementia. But he was too far already gone to be part of that. But I thought that was amazing that, you know, someone had seen that this can benefit a person that has early signs of dementia with their thought and help them be more, more themselves throughout the day wearing this patch. And I wish I would have seen it sooner. And you know, but again, my dad is a pretty lucky guy, because I mean, he beat it for 12 years. And the doctors were like, you know, sorry
about that.
Yeah, no, but he's strong, and even his doctors, you know, were like, hey, he has no heart disease, no cancer, no diabetes. He's not overweight. He's in great shape. He might outlive all of you. I'm like, don't say that. Don't say that, because I want to make sure I'm around, you know. But yeah, so
the thing is, I'm going to sound like a know-it-all, but we don't know. Actually,
we don't know.
We don't know that nicotine either delays the onset of Alzheimer's or aging dementias, or prevents them. We don't know.
Right.
For sure.
Right.
And what is starting to trouble me is you probably know about Paul Newhouse's MIND study. So the MIND, it's a huge, like, NIH has invested $10 million into this study. So this is supposed to be the definitive study using high-dose nicotine patches. And it got delayed by the pandemic. So it's been going on that long.
Yeah.
And I was told by insiders the results, at least some preliminary results, would be released in the fall of last year. There's no, it's silence. So I don't know. But, like, first of all, if the results are really good, that might explain the silence.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I think too. I mean, it's not that just because I'm in this field am I starting to realize the other things that nicotine is being used for to help to prevent Parkinson's disease and all these other things that are being, it's being used. But
we know that's just carved in stone fact.
Yeah. Yeah. It just, to me, is share that information. Why isn't that information out in the media? Why isn't it people researching it and looking at it and saying, okay, all right,
because we've demonized nicotine for 40 years, and you like can't go there. It's really difficult to get an NIH grant to look at any positive effect, health effect, or therapeutic effect from nicotine.
So do you think though, because this is when I've noticed the battle started getting really serious, is when I'm not sure if I can credit our industry with this, with the synthetic nicotine. I don't know if it was this industry that designed it first or if it came from somewhere else. But I noticed once that happened, then the ball started rolling to where we were being more and more and more attacked. Was this just a kind of a fear from RJ Reynolds saying, well, they don't need us, they can make synthetic nicotine now? Is that a conspiracy theory that I just in my head, or is that something you think could have happened?
So the people at RJR are not stupid.
No, they're not.
And so they actually know what's going on. They can see the writing on the wall. They know that cigarette sales are going to be approaching zero in this country in about 10 years. They just know it. I mean, that's unquestionable. People at Altria know that as well. But it is interesting that they're using the same arguments and tactics that, for example, the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids and Parents Against Vape, PAVE, uses. They're twisting those around. We've seriously got a bootleggers and Baptists thing going on right now. Strange bedfellows. They're all pushing for the same registry bills at state level, all over the country, that would just basically wipe out all of RJR's competitors.
Yeah.
So, and they would be happy and dance on the way to their investors because it would protect their cigarette sales and their vape sales.
Yeah. Hey, Michelle, got a question?
Well, this is kind of off the wall, but the NIH, if RJK actually gets, and I know that you're not real happy with the new administration, and with good right, but do you think that will be in our favor of RJH getting in confirmed? You don't know? Okay.
I can't read those tea leaves. The dust hasn't settled. I listened to the Senate hearing with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Today. And weirdly enough, I've actually met him, shook his hand at a picnic up in upstate New York, and talked to him for some time.
Good.
More than 10 years ago. And even then, I thought I questioned his opinions. Like, I'm putting that mildly.
Yeah.
But so we don't know who's going to be in charge of the FDA yet, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's still limbo.
So Caleb is out. We don't know who's going to be in charge of the CDC, but there's boom dropping down on the CDC. So I actually probably a lot of good people who work at the CDC are just going to leave.
Yeah.
Right. So which makes us less safe, because most of the CDC is actually doing super good things. It's only their Office on Smoking and Health that's a bit off the rail.
Yeah. Well, do you feel right there you said that. I mean, do you feel it's time for some changes there in department heads in that division of the CDC?
So I remember saying 30 years ago, I think the best thing we could do is to, because, regulations accumulate over time, right? And they get increasingly burdensome. And you get, in economist terms, you get declining marginal returns on added investments and complexity. So what we should do is every 90 years, we should just hire a dictator, give that person absolute power. But you have to implant a device in that person's brain. Because absolute power corrupts absolutely, so that at the end of 10 years, the device explodes. And then you can go back to democracy.
How about it just erases, not explode, just erases?
Exactly. So there's some there's something to be said for shaking things up, because things
yeah.
are like cumulative, well-intentioned decisions often lead to bad things. We're dealing with a complex adaptive system, and when you start to mess with it, you often get like horrible unintended consequences. That's what we're dealing with right now.
Yeah. When I say fresh new faces, different people that are in there that have different theories and maybe more up to date on today's stuff than say the person that's actually at the CDC that's in charge of tobacco and smoking and all that other stuff. Just having someone, Michelle got dropped out and dropped in. I just feel like even I think even Congress and the Senate, I think that's the same thing. I think there needs to be a cleaning there. I think we need to get some people a little younger that are in there that know what's going on around today and in our backyards, in our front of our houses, just a younger group of people. And you know, I said it a couple shows ago. They panned the Senate, and I think they panned the House, and the cameras were on it as I was watching C-SPAN. And I swear to God, I felt like I was looking at a senior citizen home in the hall. Yeah. And I mean, that's what I felt. I was waiting for the clown to come up and start juggling for them, or somebody playing a guitar and some cheesy song from the 60s to keep them happy. That's what I felt. So I just, like, for me, it seems like those departments, and I'm not sure how how up to date they are on new science and things, and how corrupted they are already, because they've been in there so long and they've been paid out for study after study. And we got a clear example of that with E-Valley. You know, we knew the truth. They knew the truth, but they stretched it out as long as they could to get their narrative out there and then eventually clean up their mess. And to me, there was no consequences for them making that big mistake, because you think about it, we knew they knew what it was, but yet they lied and they put people's lives in danger. That's how I look at it.
I steer clear of the vaccine controversies. But
I don't want to talk vaccine. No. I'm talking about E-Valley. I'm not talking about the other thing.
I'm sorry. My bad. I was thinking COVID. So
we can't say that word on YouTube.
E-Valley. Yeah, that's.
Well, that's what I mean. They knew the truth.
Purely weaponized misinformation. That's all that was.
Let me jump into the next one. Are you ready for the next myth? I got to go to the drum roller thingy.
Wait, but you didn't get to the brain harms or the brain.
Okay. Go ahead, go.
Keep them in line. Keep them in line.
So, like, very obviously, if nicotine harmed developing brains, then 1 out of 3 living adults would have brain harms.
Yes, exactly.
From smoking in their teens. Where's the evidence for that? There is none. If it harmed developing brains, then 60% of American men were in their early 20s and late teens were smoking by the end of World War II.
Yep.
And only 10% smoke now. So if you just try to tell any American woman that brain damaged men, there are 80% fewer brain damaged men now than there were in 1945.
Yeah.
And when she stops laughing,
exactly.
start to question what you're being told on this thing.
Yeah.
So as we all know, the only evidence comes from rodent studies and blah blah blah. It's a purely concocted, invented harm, and it really only became prominent over the past 10 years when nicotine vapes started to appear.
Yeah.
So you had to find some new harm, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I was going to say she was probably going to hit you with a cast iron skillet too. That was popular back then. Let me give you a drum roll here. Where'd it go now? Oh, there it is. Fact, e-cigarettes or vaping products get their flavors from chemicals. While some of these chemical flavors are safe to eat, they are not safe when inhaled into the lungs, Sir Charles Gardner.
Sir.
Sir.
Well, there are hundreds and hundreds of vapor toxicology studies. There's no question that there are some of these flavors may be somewhat more harmful than others. And all of us would like to know that.
Exactly.
Right? Like we would like evidence-based safety standards to be set on flavors as well as devices. And so cinnamaldehyde, for example, like cinnamon flavored vapor. Turns out, maybe you want to avoid that. So there's a lot of, as you know, the big part of the kind of misinfodemic is, there are chemicals in that, therefore it's bad.
It's bad. Yeah. Well, tell us. That's my beef. Tell us. Quit hiding the fact. Yeah. Just let us know what it is. Let the industry know what it is so the industry can stay away from those flavors. There's plenty of flavors out there. There's plenty of.
Right.
Yeah.
And, I'm sure that some nicotine vape liquids in the United States still contain diacetyl, but it's really low trace amounts.
Yeah.
It's completely banned, prohibited in the UK. And I don't know about the EU, probably is. Okay. Like if you think it's bad, prohibit it.
Yeah. Prohibit it.
Fine. Like, and leave other things. That, come on, like you can look at the vapor toxicology studies and you can look at the human biomarker studies, and study after study of non-industry studies, academic studies, shows that people who are vaping, they just look like people who never smoked and never vaped.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Well, I pointed out to everybody out there, I pointed out to Mr. Charles that he looks better. He looks much healthier. Something happened. I think he found the fountain of youth because he's gone back at least, I'm going to say at least 9-10 years. Michelle, your thoughts? 9-10 years?
Wait. Can you compliment me even more than that, Michelle?
Your thoughts, Michelle?
Up the game here.
That's easy. That's easy to compliment you, but excuse me. Excuse me. But no, you do look good.
Yeah. It looks healthy.
Allergies.
Yeah. I mean, are there any, I don't know of any, but are there any studies out there that show the consumer which ones of these flavors are okay to eat and not, or okay to eat, or okay to inhale or not inhale? That's what I'm getting. Are there studies out there? There's none. So
I mean, yeah, there are studies, but no one is actively trying to communicate the results of the studies to the public.
Yeah.
And to people who smoke. Like, that's really ought to be the target population. We still have 26 million people who smoke in the United States, and more than 1 billion worldwide, and 80% of them are in low and middle income countries. Just let's remind ourselves. Yeah. And in the United States, 26 million, almost all of them are either low income Americans or Americans living with mental health problems, or American vets. Yeah. Big deal. Or unhomed Americans, or American Indians. Yeah. Like, that's like, basically you can name any vulnerable population with the exception of Black Americans. They're smarter than white people. They smoke a little bit less than white people, but it's just a tiny bit less. Yeah. But smoking is much more harmful to them than to European.
Just because of their DNA, right?
Like, actually, nobody knows why, but it is.
Yeah.
Especially heart disease. And so this becomes a social justice
Yeah.
and a human rights issue. And we're not playing that card as much as we should, actually.
I agree with you. I agree with you on that completely.
Jeffrey says,
hey, Jeff. Thanks. Oh, your check is in the mail.
Your check is in the mail, baby. Too, one of the things I think, I know there's studies out there, or not studies, but like surveys on who's smoking and the types of jobs that they're doing. So I still would like to see like some numbers of what is the percentage of firemen that smoke? What are the percentages of police officers that smoke? What are the percentage of doctors, nurses? I would love to see that study, because I think if there's those numbers, you see those, I think it could benefit us, because even like the first thing you said, who's smoking, you the first group that you listed was the people with less means, or not. I hate saying poor, so give me a different word, Charles.
Low income.
Low income. Thank you. I don't like using the word poor, but low income people. So I think with those high numbers, everyone says the low income people are smoking or vaping. I would still like to see those numbers of how many firemen are smoking, how many police officers are smoking, how many doctors, how many nurses are smoking, how many people in the healthcare physicians or healthcare.
You can find it's people in stressful occupations.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
IT departments, I mean, IT, all of IT always smokes, or vapes or whatever. I go to my doctors now and I talk to their nurses, and all of them are vaping. They won't tell you that unless you ask them or you get in a conversation with them, but they're all vaping, and they all understand. I mean, unless they're really old, and it's kind of nice and refreshing. Now, maybe that's just a Florida thing. I don't know. But I've lived in 7 different states or however many, and they all are basically the same. It may take 1 or 2 times to go to them, but you can get in that. You can get that information real easy.
Yeah, I mean, I can go right here to my hospital by my house, and there you have to. Well, I think it's everywhere in the country, but here in Modesto at the hospital, you have to go all the way to the sidewalk. You cannot vape or smoke on hospital property, so you have to go all the way out to the sidewalk. So they're all there, and they're either a nurse or a doctor because they're in their scrubs still. And they're standing underneath the bus. The bus stop is where everyone goes because it's covered. And it's shade, and it's also covers from the rain, but they're all out there. They still have their scrubs on, and they're either vaping or smoking. And I'm like, I'm counting. There's like 25 doctors and nurses that are out there, but yet the patient can't leave the room to go have a vape. No, I'm kidding. No, I remember
John, that reminds me of the one time I went to a conference of parties meeting for the Framework Convention on Tobacco Control. This one was in Geneva. I think it was COP8. And outside with a bunch of other vaping friends, we watched a lot of the delegates from all over the world to come out during the coffee breaks and smoke.
Yeah. I've heard stories where the executives at some of these big hardware manufacturers for vaping gear, when they have these big conferences in China, they're all smoking. They're all sitting down smoking, man. It's insane. I'm like, you got a product here that you are selling to the world that's helping everyone, and you choose to, to smoke a cigarette. But I was explained by another I'll say Asian or Chinese or whatever, but it's still it's more socially accepted of power when you're smoking than you are if you're holding a vape device. If you're a CEO and you're out there, or a company corporate head, and they see you out there vaping, you're not respected as much as the guy that's got the cigarette in his hand. I was like, okay, I get it.
According to a study I saw just 5-6 years ago, more than 30% of Chinese doctors smoke. And most Chinese hospitals have a smoking room for the nurses and the doctors to smoke.
That's crazy.
And Derek Yak, who is actually another mentor to me, he's often said, you don't get a country's smoking rate to really drop until you get the doctors to stop.
Right. Yeah. As far as the flavoring thing, I mean, that's just another bullet in their chamber to use against us. And it's for me, I hate using that, or let me go nail in the coffin. I don't know, whichever phrase you want me to use, people. I don't want to offend anyone. But they use that one a lot, and adding it and having it also be unsafe helps their narrative, because it's not just, it's not just enticing for children to have flavored nicotine vapes, but also let's not forget it's bad for you.
So we all know how many flavored alcohols there are. So let's set that aside. And you know, teen binge drinking. The latest numbers I saw from the CDC: 9% of teens are binge drinking, and that causes 4,000 deaths every year. And only 2.3% of American teens are vaping nicotine frequently. And okay, whatever it is, 85.6% or whatever it is of those are using flavored vapes. Like, so what? Like, none of them are dying. There are no body. But I have often said, you know, it's very interesting that the same. Hey, Phillip.
Hey, Phillip.
Hi, everyone.
I've often said, hey, Phillip.
I was actually going to do the line from goddamn, what the name of that movie where he says, "Suit up." How I Met Your Mother. How I Met Your Mother. Suit up.
That's a movie. That's a series.
You know I love you, Phillip.
I love you too.
I know.
You can actually take this ridiculousness off and get
no, man. You brought class to the show right now, dude. That's what I'm saying. You brought class.
I can't disagree with that. No, I can't. But I do want to get my mic set up, and it's good to see you, Charles. I'm so happy to see you. We've been talking a little bit recently about things having to do with what it is that we want, and I can only hope that we'll continue that discussion here.
People who use safer nicotine, I think we need a list of demands. That's an idea that's very nascent.
All right, let me get to the drum roll. E-cigarettes and vaping devices produce water vapor. E-cigarettes do not produce harmless water vapor. The Surgeon General reports that e-cigarettes produce a aerosol that can contain harmful chemicals, including heavy metals, organic compounds, and ultra-fine particles that can remain in the lungs. Sir Charles.
Okay, Phillip, we're doing myths, just so you can follow.
I caught that, actually.
You can follow at home. And I don't know what to do with that.
I do. Let it wither and die.
Every word in that sentence has been weaponized. That's all. It's like ultra-fine particles.
I'm going to put devil's advocate here for a second. On the flip side of that, we should probably think about not saying there are zero risks or harmless. Those are things.
Right. You never say that. We literally never say that.
Yeah.
But they,
unfortunately, there are some people that have that are, you know what, legitimately, they have legitimate grievances. But I would hope that maybe we can manifest those grievances in more constructive ways than making claims that are also not equal. Let's just say they're not. Let's say unfounded claims that are, and we can't afford to make those. And I think Joe Gitchell said it best. If there's any one side of this debate that's going to end up with heads on stakes, so let's not do that.
Right. There is no safe way to jump out of an airplane.
Wait, really?
If you wear a parachute, it's safer.
I'm with you. And I think the more reasonable we sound, the less reasonable they do. And that is something that I'm very much interested in. I like that trend. Let's continue.
Right. So that's incredibly important. And all of us, including myself, need a correction. Skip is really good. She has great advice on this. Keep an even tone, stick to the evidence. Be calm, be respectful, say, well, okay, that's, fascinating that you think that, but
Yeah.
here's what the evidence actually shows from the CDC or this peer-reviewed study or whatever.
Yeah.
And actually, I would say an increasing number of advocates are doing that. Actually, kind of impressing me a lot. And that's fantastic. And it ultimately, like the person who sounds most shrill and the person who's screaming, just think of the teens, and there's chemicals and ultrafine particles and luring the next generation into a lifetime of the horrors of nicotine addiction. They sound like lunatics, which frankly, some of them are.
Yeah.
I seriously want to go to the Society for Research on Nicotine and Tobacco, SRNT, and I actually am saying this seriously.
Yeah.
I wonder if some people who go in, this is really slanderous, but I wonder, I'm all choked up about this. I wonder if some people who go into the field of tobacco control do so because they have really strong feelings of revulsion and disgust and a need to control things, which suspiciously start to sound like OCD symptoms.
Yeah.
So there are survey instruments, right, that you can give to people and see if they're on the OCD spectrum. I kind of wonder.
An OCD test before you get
a slightly higher percentage of people in tobacco control than in other fields of public health who are on.
They're drawn to it.
You guys are talking about me while I'm changing. Rude.
What?
I said, that's rude of you. I'm changing.
He's changing.
Oh, okay. Wait. So I'm going to abandon you and get another more coffee.
And while Phillip is changing, let's guess what color shirt he's going to wear. Charles, what color shirt will he be wearing, Charles?
I think he's just going to take his jacket off.
Okay. No, I know Phillip. He's switching colors. I'm going to go with a baby blue. Michelle?
Gray.
All right.
Gray.
In chat, what color shirt will Phillip be wearing? We'll see.
No, Charles has a good point here. He really does. Because I have thought the same thing. I have issues and we all have issues, but when I think about some of the things that come out of CDC and all these other places, I think, God, they really have issues. I mean, they really have issues.
Yeah.
They're ignoring the truth, and it's more than just to pay a thing for them. I really believe that. It's more of I cannot afford to back down now.
Yeah, for me, like when I see someone that's in charge of the CDC or the FDA, I'm sorry, it's just this is me, but I just feel like this person has gone into this type of career for a good reason. He wants to save lives. He wants to be but I think once you get to this level where you're getting to be in charge of the FDA, in charge of the CDC, I think you become less of a doctor and more of a puppet. And for me, that's how I look at it. Sure, maybe King does really want something good to come out of this vaping, but he's got somebody doing this with the strings and saying, hey, you can't say that. Hey, you can't say that. And that's the sad part, because I think, unfortunately, I do believe that certain people are groomed for certain positions in life. And I think like he's been groomed for quite some time to be in charge of the FDA, be in charge of tobacco harm reduction. And I think he's gone into it with good intentions, but I think his hands are tied. I really think there are people behind the scenes that are saying, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to say. And this is how we're going to go about it. If you don't like it, then you can go back to your private practice in Massachusetts and do whatever the hell you want to do over there.
Right. So I actually know Mitch Zeller and have had long conversations with him, and he's on record. He's publicly said, he was sitting there in what is now, he was the director of the Center for Tobacco Products. And this order came from the White House saying, okay, you're going to ban, you're going to prohibit flavored pod-based vapes, but not flavored disposable vapes.
Right.
And his response immediately, according to Mitch, was that's really bad for public health. Now, I kind of think he wanted to ban both of them.
Yeah.
But it was, the White House was making what they thought was a Solomonic decision to basically to punish Juul, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which had already unilaterally prohibited and stopped selling its own flavored pods. And so it was kind of pointless. And
but it was never enough. It was never enough for them. They wanted to just completely destroy that company.
Yeah, it had been demonized. Yeah, so it was like a pogrom against Juul. But the thing is, I remember, because I worked in global health for a long time, and I remember someone said, and this sounded like pretty sage advice, but like, Charles, there is never any evidence-based health policy. There can only be evidence-informed health policy, because the politics never goes away. And the politicians are pulled in this direction and that direction, and then the regulators are likewise. Yeah. So, that always stuck in my head. It's like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. I get that. It's like, okay, we live in the real world, not the ideal world where, we have philosopher kings.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you, in your opinion, about Dr. King. Do you feel, did he do enough during his early years to dictate him getting this job? In your personal opinion,
I don't know.
Was he the best in his field? Yeah.
To be honest, I don't know enough about his previous career. I know he had a hand in the Avali.
Yes, he did. Yes.
Complete fiasco.
Yeah.
And
that's why I think he got his. That's why I think he handled the way he handled that situation exactly the way the FDA wanted him to, and Big Tobacco wanted him to handle it. And for being a good boy and staying status quo, he got himself a nice gig job as the director, of the FDA at tobacco. Yeah, that's how I look at it. And I know I'm not going to pretend like I'm this huge conspiracy. Yes, I do believe we landed on the moon, people, and all this. The world isn't flat, all this other nonsense. But I do believe that he is someone that got a promotion because he sold his soul to I'm sorry. He sold his soul to Big Tobacco and everybody else. And that's how I look at it. So for me, it's just another puppet in a high profile position that's dictating what I need in my life and I feel is benefiting myself. And I hate that. And millions of other people, billions of people. I won't go billions. We have billions yet as far as vapors? Probably not.
No, it's 114 million adult nicotine vapors.
Yeah, we're there. Yeah, we're there. All right, drum roll, guys. You're gonna love this next one there. Where is the drum roll? There it is. Formaldehyde is not harmful when used in vaping devices. Formaldehyde becomes toxic when it's heated by a vape device. It is not safe when inhaled. Oh, he went white. Damn it. He went white. Damn it.
That's because he knew what colors we were saying.
Yeah. We were deciding when you said you were going to change, we were debating on what color shirt you were going to come back in on.
There's a possibility that my carry-on is still with the airline. So we're just going to go ahead and not, we're going to leave that. And what were you saying about formaldehyde? It was very interesting.
Yeah, is not harmful when used in a vaping device. Fact, formaldehyde becomes toxic when heated by a vape device. It is not safe when inhaled. That's all the information they give you on the myth of formaldehyde.
I believe the formaldehyde myth was born of tobacco control scientists singeing cotton and metal at temperatures that were unreasonable for any circumstance, I guess.
Exactly, Phil. I think that when they did their testing, I think they were given a device and they looked at this device and they go, oh, wow, look at this. It goes up to 200 watts. Okay, so this coil that they gave me in tank, that must mean I can go 200 watts. And they threw a coil that was designed for 15 watts in this tank, filled it up with juice, cranked this device up to 200 watts, and then fired it and said, oh my God, look, formaldehyde.
On a dry wick.
On a dry wick, yes.
Explosives, you know, it's just one of the things. Like, what exactly is that kind of science where you are looking into an area of public health and you just don't even know the first thing about how this allegedly harmful lifestyle is led? And it's just idiotic. It's like saying, you know, people, you know, light cigars on fire and, you know, stick them in their ear. It's just not how it's done.
For most of us.
we all have our
concept of replication studies, and Roberto Sussman and Konstantinos Farsalinos and Ricardo Polosa have been doing replication studies, and when they try to reproduce those results with proper conditions, using vape devices in the way that actual human beings actually use them, they either have zero formaldehyde or just little barely trace amounts of formaldehyde. But the FDA is telling children this. If you do this, it will literally embalm you like a taxidermy cow. Have you seen those videos?
Yeah, I've seen those. That commercial comes on Hulu about once a week. I see that commercial.
At what age were you when you discovered what the word formaldehyde meant and the fact that it exists? I mean, I'm trying to understand how they're wording these targeted anti-vaping ads campaigns, and they're using scare tactics that these kids are like, what the hell does that even mean? And more importantly, all of the older senior adults out there smoking, they know exactly what that means, and that's all they know.
Yeah.
It just seems so obvious that you're not actually reaching your intended audience, and you're reaching your absolutely unintended audience. And I just don't understand what we have to do to make that more clear.
Yeah, I think too.
That word has a lot of syllables, so it must be harmful.
It must be harmful. Let's be honest. We live in a Google. We live in a Google world. So if a teenager sees this word for the first time and wants to know what it is, that's the first thing they're going to do. They're going to Google formaldehyde, and then they're going to go, "Wow, that's horrible. That's bad.
Dangerous. Yeah,
that's dangerous." With no explanation or understanding of how much and how did they come to that study? How did they realize there was this much formaldehyde in it? How much is really bad for you? How much is okay for you? You know, none of that.
Right, actually, that you're introducing young people to the concepts that they're not ready to understand, and more importantly, they're not ready to investigate further.
Because like for you and I and vapors ourselves, what are we going to do? We're going to research how much formaldehyde is in a cigarette. That's what I would have done. That's the first thing I would have done. Well, if there's formaldehyde in vaping, how much was in a cigarette? And now I go look and see how much is in a cigarette and going comparing the two, and I'm like, you know, the scales of justice. You know what I mean? Come on.
I spent 2 semesters hovering over a cadaver, as one does. First,
as one does. It was in New York by any chance.
in a medical school.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. Yeah, to clarify that.
Then as a teaching assistant in human anatomy, I must have inhaled it. Ton of formaldehyde. That smell is actually
You can still taste it, right?
Yeah, like it's actually not a pleasant smell. And
no.
I don't even like going into a hospital to smell that smell.
Yeah, right. And it has really negative connotations for me.
Yeah.
But I never thought it was harmful to my health. I probably inhaled like infinitely more formaldehyde from that than I do from this device.
Jeffrey's glad you had mentioned in medical school. That's all, yeah, he wasn't. He was just not. He wasn't roaming the streets of New York looking for cadavers.
Jeff, I hardly ever, have cadavers in my apartment here.
Although you could probably find one or two in a few blocks radius on certain sections of New York.
No, actually, it's pretty safe here. It's actually New York is surprisingly safe, but formaldehyde.
So, how do we go about combating this myth? If you were to, if Charles was right now to go post something on X about formaldehyde and vaping, how would you write that out, Charles?
I want to know what Michelle recommends.
Michelle,
what I recommend.
Well, let me do it the right way. Hold on. Let me do it the right way.
Oh,
Michelle, no. Michelle, your thoughts, Michelle, your thoughts.
Okay. All right. For me, it would be more or less, formaldehyde is produced by the human body. So it's produced in plants. It's produced in all of our plastic places that we make, plastic and things. So it's not that bad, think about it.
Yeah.
So I love that. That's just like, it's a very human response. It's true. Normal exhaled breath, even if you live on a Swiss alpine mountain, contains a little bit of formaldehyde because your body produces it. Yeah. And what I most love is that all of us, like everybody's self-taught in the end, all of us have educated ourselves. Like hundreds and hundreds of people who are advocates in this field, former smokers switched to something safer, felt better, became advocates, have educated themselves. And you see a lot of them who seem to know a hell of a lot more than PhD scientists, frankly.
Yeah.
They're actually looking at the actual data rather than kind of following the narratives.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I'm a little hippie now, so I'm gonna rebel every chance I get.
Yeah.
I gotta read it for myself. I've never have been a follower. So once I read it and I'm convinced, then that's just the way it is. And I think a lot of other people my age anyway are that way, and I think younger people are getting the same way. It's just going to take them a little bit longer. They're starting to realize that, hey, things aren't the way that I've been told they are.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. They're starting to think on their own. They're starting to read. And I think we're getting through. Eventually we will.
I do.
I love this quote from Kathy Crosby when she was still the communications director at the Center for Tobacco Products at the FDA. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah, I know.
I always say it the wrong way. Like I was in the room. So what I heard her say is kids have BS detectors. They have built-in BS.
Basically.
Detectors.
Yeah. And they see right through it.
She said something slightly different from that, but it was actually even cruder than that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And all she's saying is, they know kids can go on the internet and they can see actually if you consider it to be evidence, there's evidence on both sides, right?
Yeah.
Right there tells you there's a difference of opinion among experts.
Yeah.
And what is truly interesting is how organizations like the World Health Organization and others refuse to admit that there is even a difference of opinion, which is an objective fact. among experts. And then there's the irony of the fact that big tobacco was trying to convince the public, experts disagree for like 3 decades back when they were bad, like really bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I've said it several times on another show that I do, and it's just, I think this new generation that's coming up that has just been, that has grown up with cell phones, computers, laptops, tablets. There are certain things I feel that they're missing out that our generation got to have, and a sense of adventure is one of them. But I think they are more educated and more able to research things today than I was in the 70s and the 80s.
Right.
I mean, if I needed to look something up, I had to go get that set of encyclopedias my poor mother paid $5,000 for, and
right.
And look it up.
Right.
But these kids have everything. And what I find intriguing, though, hold on, Michelle. What I find intriguing is these kids want to research it. It's not like they don't just go, oh yeah, that's interesting. No, they grab their phones, and like I watch my grandson, he's 13. He sees something, he doesn't understand it. He goes right to Google and he looks it up and he reads it. And he understands what was just said or what that word means. And I love that. I couldn't have done that when I was 16 years old. I didn't have that ability. So I think they are better educated and smarter today, and know what when they're being fed bullshit and when they're not being fed bullshit. So you're right. I do believe that they are smarter. They are smarter, and they know when someone's giving them a bullshit line.
I hope that's true. I hope that more kids are able to, like, they've honed those skills to be able to separate the fact from the fiction.
Yeah.
So, and some of them certainly have.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Michelle, go ahead.
No, that you're fine. But I think a lot of kids nowadays are starting to realize that they are being fed BS, and it's their life. And hey, when we were kids, what better way to get our parents back is to prove to them that your parents are wrong.
Yeah.
And I think that is happening. I think now that they're seeing that their parents are lying to them, whether it be on purpose or not,
or teachers.
Or whomever, adults in general. I think they're really starting to enjoy being able to prove them wrong. And I think it's kind of catching on. I really do. I see it, And so I think, I watched somebody just the other day in a park, and they saw me vaping, and the kids were, 12, 14, something like that. And the mom immediately kind of pulled over at the girl's shirt and said, "See, that's why I don't want you vaping." And the little girl looked up at her and said, "Mom, I've already told you, it's been proven to be safer."
Nice.
And she said, "Do you remember the paper? Did you not read the paper I gave you?"
Yeah, that's
and
awesome.
I thought, that's awesome, and I just kind of looked at the girl, and I couldn't help but say, "Good job," kind of mouthed it to her, and the mom was pissed at that point, but it is what it is. So I think it's wonderful if they're starting to get mad at people that are lying to them. That's what we need, that's exactly what we need.
Well, what I love
actually,
is
you should have really messed with them. You should have said, like, I'm actually a 12-year-old child, and look what vaping has done.
Vaping's done for me. Well, you know what I noticed is funny?
Me and my cane.
Yeah. What I noticed is funny is for us growing up, it was the little white lie. Remember the little white lie? That was okay. Our parents would use it. They're lying to you because, it's going to be good for you, For
your own good. Yeah.
Yeah. For your own good. But these kids today, my grandson goes, "Dad, no, that's still a lie." And I go, "Yeah, I get it." He's all, "No, that's still a lie. No, that's a lie." And I'm like, "Okay."
Can't do that.
This has been going on for a long time. My boys, they're pretty smart kids, and they're 24 and 22 now. But as they were growing up, 5, 6, 7, 8, that's a long time ago. I mean, in their lifespan, it's a long time ago. There were like a million times when one of them would say something to me about, some scientific fact or something.
Yeah.
And, with always like a question is, is that right? And I would say, yeah, that is right. But how do you even know that? Oh,
Yeah.
I watched a YouTube video about it.
Yep.
Mhm.
YouTube, baby.
So yeah, it's a really different access
Whole different
to
generation, baby.
But it also means they have access to a lot of misinformation.
Yeah.
That's
I'm worried
true.
about the new name for the new generation. That one scares me because I think they're going to use that to their advantage because they're going to be called alpha. So right away, they're going to go Google alpha and realize that they are more important than anybody else, whether you're Gen X or Gen Z, millennials. They're going to walk around going, I'm alpha.
Is this deliberate? So we've reset the clock. So now we can start having an alpha, and then there's going to be a beta, and then
Beta,
kappa and gamma, and whatever order they come in.
I don't know how they come up with them, to be honest. So
The longest time I had no
No.
idea what age group was millennial versus Gen Z, and I
still
don't believe I still don't because I do not care.
I couldn't care less, really.
It's an idiotic way to boomers, Gen X. I guess that would make me the quintessential Gen Xer. I could.
You
not
are
care.
Gen Xer, yeah. You're
Mm-mm. I could care less.
You could care less. You fit
They
the
are
profile.
stupid.
You fit the profile.
They are not. They are not dumb, but mostly what they are is they're consuming all sorts of information at the speed of light. Some of it very low quality, and that's a consequence of the internet AI. Holy cow, we are on the brink of just extraordinary things, terrifying things too, and at the same time. For example, Charles, your kids are extraordinary in terms of their accomplishments. You should be proud. I'm very proud of Michael, my stepson, who's now in the second half of his second year of medical school. And I'm pretty sure he'd be very angry with me for saying this, but at the same time, he vaped on and off for many, many years, all throughout college. He went to Vanderbilt. He had all kinds of. He reminds me of a more competent, wiser version of me. I was not the kid. I would do that. He's more interested in being getting those A's, being top of his class, figuring it out. I myself was interested in the same. At the same time, on principle, I would not do homework assignments if they were not going to help me ace the exam. And those were part of my grade, as it turns out. Anyhow, the whole thing is that he and his now wife, they were vaping here and there and all over the place, and they've quit recently. And I've seen numerous instances of that where you have young people who are vaping like fiends, as early as ninth grade, and they get into college, or as soon as they're out of college, or should they fail out of college, that's a different story. Let's just say they are. This is my observation, and I've also looked at the various surveys and national, reports. They are kind of growing out of it, and they're not going back and saying, "Hey, cigarettes were a much, much better idea." Yeah. This is such a massive public health win on all possible levels. But let's not focus on that. But I think, Charles, you have so often pointed out, and I give you so much respect for being able to keep from literally committing murder, the amount of things that you do in your lifetime, and the amount of this foolishness that is coming from what should be an extremely responsible and thorough public health establishment. It's just their need to go ahead and create messaging that is just for example, the American Medical Association, which obviously is not government, it's just a overfunded. My father, who's a neurologist, thinks of them as I don't know, something along the lines of the National Enquirer of medical groups. They're just not well respected, but that's not what people who are not doctors think. And The president of the American Medical Association actually claimed that he had seen evidence of e-cigarettes causing cancer, and this is just not true. And it's unbearably irresponsible to say as much. And I just do not understand how a person can defend that kind of reprehensible falsehood, especially a person in a position of such, positions of power and influence carry more responsibility than they should, power and influence. And I just don't understand how someone in that position could be so careless.
Philip, can I ask you to ask your son, because I keep hearing this rumor that some medical students use nicotine patches to study and to take exams. Have you asked him if he's ever seen or heard of that? And on that note, which is really tangential, we should all be aware that there is a huge biohacker community out there.
Yeah.
That we don't really intersect with them. And they all talk about nicotine like it's, of course it's a nootropic. It enhances cognition. And they're all a little bit leery of nicotine, but but a lot of the conversation that I see them saying, like people saying things in that community is around the fact that actually no, it's not harmful. So in low dose, it's actually good for your mental process and blah blah blah. We have kind of common cause. We should keep that in mind. I'm sorry to take this off.
Well, let me
you're
ask
right.
you
And
this.
that's something that I asked many years ago. I had to ask my father, who had, without saying as much, admitted in his experience, early on in med school and as a neurologist, it was always understood among, people in his field that nicotine does have benefits, and more or less those benefits were never further explored or investigated or researched because it was verboten. It just it has been ever since the original report, I want to say, from the Royal College of Physicians on the harms of smoking. Yeah, which I believe that was the one that no one actually bought. Is that not the irony of it? I think the original damning report on the very, very serious health harms of smoking cigarettes came from the Royal College of Physicians.
1962.
Right. Of course, the ultimate irony is the same professional group came out with the first report on the health benefits of e-cigarettes. So here we are.
Well, but am I wrong though? Like in the 70s and the 80s, weren't if I could be wrong, but in the 70s and the 80s, weren't college kids using coffee and like no dose to stay up and study?
Of course.
At the very least.
At the very least, by which he means amphetamine
and other things, So I think a nicotine patch is a little bit better than all those other narcotics that they were using.
I went to college, dude. No dose? Yeah, breakfast, whatever.
Breakfast. So actually, I just watched a documentary on YouTube about the use of amphetamines during World War II. Yeah. So the Germans were giving their version of amphetamines to their bomber pilots and fighter pilots. And there was like a chemical arms race going on. So the British said, well, okay, we have to give our RAF fighters amphetamine speed, basically.
Speed.
That's something that's fascinated me for so long. I wonder how many of those people up in the air were so sleep deprived. They were, truly clinically insane out of their tree.
And
this wasn't like
was around how it makes you fearless, and it obviously keeps you awake. American troops and British troops in the battles in North Africa, the tank battles, they were all amped up on amphetamine.
I'm sure they were.
They were.
This is actually, and there's been all kinds of research like Provigil, New Vigil, all kinds of amphetamine derivatives have been, tried out for quote unquote military applications. It's just nuts. But the stuff they were giving out in World War II makes, today's like Ritalin, I mean, look like, baby aspirin. I mean, that stuff was for real. And these guys were, I don't know how many days you go without sleep before you are insane, but let's just say they well exceeded the number.
Actually, that was one of the things they said, that some of the soldiers, like, they were terrified that, like, will I ever be able to sleep again?
Yeah, I could imagine.
The American military, like, this is like Eisenhower. He was ordering 30 million pills of amphetamine for the troops.
Yeah.
And all of those young boys came back,
which were
with
being
an experience of speed.
Yeah, which were
and
manufactured
in those days,
in
you
Germany.
could just go into the pharmacy and buy it.
Well, I don't know if they could buy like the Eisenhower Truman variety, because that stuff is I don't know,
pure,
pure, absolute just nightmare fuel. But what I'm wondering is, how much of that time did these people spend in action, all amped up, haven't slept for days at a time? Do they was traumatizing, and that when they leave that horrifying situation, they're sleeping and they have fragmented memories of what took place.
Yes,
I can't imagine what that would be like.
Yeah. Let me hit the next one, guys. Hold on here. Give me drum roll.
Yeah, that's a long one.
The only toxic chemical in vaping is nicotine. Vaping juice contains 31 chemicals or more. Some chemicals, such as formaldehyde, have become toxic. When heated, nicotine is also highly addictive and can affect the development of the brain. Sir Charles, did we ever say
all
that?
The greatest hits. All you have to do is turn to Carl Fagerstrom's beautiful blog. This man invented the Fagerstrom test. It's a common test used to measure. It's a test instrument used to measure how dependent smokers are on cigarettes. And he writes this thing. Basically, a lot of people in tobacco control don't go back to the foundational evidence on just how addictive is nicotine really. And like we all know, even the CDC says, and I'm sorry, the FDA says nicotine patches and gum are not dependence forming or subject to abuse. So how does that square with as addictive as heroin and nicotine? The Surgeon General, the key Surgeon General statement is from his 1988 report. Was that C. Everett Koop or
yes,
like whichever one, which is the pharmacological and behavioral processes. So first of all, what's the word behavioral doing there? And then processes that determine tobacco addiction, not nicotine addiction, tobacco addiction. But, people in tobacco control use tobacco and nicotine like they're synonyms, which is stupid, are similar. So, similar to the processes that determine addiction to heroin and cocaine. Okay, you could say that of playing a video game, right? It's like the process is dopamine, folks.
Yeah.
It's like having sex, playing a video game, and winning the boss battle. It's drinking caffeine, frankly.
Yeah, caffeine.
It's like anything that releases dopamine. So this is like the dumbest statement, but then it gets weaponized. The very next day, every newspaper in America was running screaming headlines saying, the Surgeon General says nicotine is as addictive as heroin and cocaine. This is like really manipulative stuff. And to be honest, Koop actually did say that in the press release. He literally said that, but he didn't write the report, right? The people who wrote the report, I think there was like 4 people involved in it. And they have to write it so that other people in the field of tobacco control would know it's true. So you have to write a statement that sounds scary, but it doesn't really say anything.
Yeah. Before that report, where was nicotine classified? As is it classified where it is today as a what is it now? I forget what the
brain toxin.
Yeah.
No, it's, the highly addictive thing keeps coming back, and it really needs to be questioned. But if you question it, then you work for big tobacco, obviously. Yeah. So it's like damned if you do, and damned if you don't. And
reason I asked that question is was his statement a way of making nicotine a bad drug, that it needed to be classified as something bad for you, so that it could only be made and processed through certain fields like pharmacies, and it still had patents for it? That's what I'm getting at. Why was that statement made? Was it a way to move nicotine to a different category to benefit, say, pharmaceutical companies and certain companies that were producing nicotine at that time? I'm going back and down the conspiracy wheel. So
there are. So that's the report that said nicotine is addictive. Yeah. That's in a different part of the report. It says nicotine is addictive. And so I've seen, I can't confirm this, but I've seen reports showing that three of those four authors admit this was something they discussed internally. It was extremely controversial between the four of them, whether they should go with calling nicotine dependence forming or addictive. And they decided to go with addictive, not because it was technically correct, but because they thought that it was like a scary word.
It would have the desired impact. And I think probably their intentions were noble, but they were not being honest. And that's what happens. You have noble intentions, but if you don't tell the public the truth as you discover it, it will always find a way to come back and make you that much less credible and hurt public health on the whole. And it's very, we're seeing it in real time right now, and it's very discouraging, but I'm also trying to stay positive. Like my bags
That's
are.
Why I really like the recent Reg Watch interview with Mike Siegel, right? Because he's really getting at that. Like, how is it that this little subfield of public health, tobacco control, started kind of going down that slippery slope to a kind of paternalistic willingness to bend the truth, to exaggerate harms, to exaggerate the numbers of users, and ultimately, literally, to lie to the public for our own good. It's like this is happening, and nobody knows it's going on except people like us.
I have so much respect for that man, because he was literally born of that tobacco control faction that included people like Glantz, et cetera, that were starting to embellish. Not starting, we're embellishing. And Michael Siegel's, as I understand, he is a very, very modest man, and I am very grateful that he is back and speaking up. But I want to say that he was like many who just chose to question how people in the tobacco control field were, just using the license given to them by lies told by tobacco companies to make up their own only worse. And he said, wait, no, that's just not true. And I believe to a certain extent he was shunned by his older, more well-known peers. And he went his own way, and he is a very, very impressive human being. And
but he's telling something we really need to listen to, which is that in the 80s and 90s, the people who were working in tobacco control with very good intent, truly, they really were under attack from big tobacco companies. The big tobacco companies were lying, were undermining them, were funding these kind of, what are they called? AstroTurf research organizations that were concocting evidence to convince the public that the experts disagree. They like at every turn. And if you listen really closely to what Mike Siegel was saying. He's saying back then, we experts in tobacco control, we had to really toe the line. We had to say, like, we had to make everything actually factually evidence-based and verifiable and, fact checkable, and so that they wouldn't come after us. And then what happens is, 1998 ish, like, then America goes into this weird thing with the Tobacco Master Settlement Agreement. And now,
no, you're
right, 98 or 99, and then so now the tobacco industry is muzzled, and they can say any goddamn thing they want, and they do, and so it's like they've taken a page from Big Tobacco's playbook. Honestly, I've said this so many times. Yeah, it's true. It's really disturbing.
Yeah, get out of jail free card. All right. Vaping can help me quit smoking. It says the Food and Drug Administration has not approved any e-cigarettes or vaping products to help quit tobacco products. And then it just says, for free confidential information about quitting, visit yesquit.org. Never mind. I'm not doing all that.
Thank you.
So vaping can help you quit smoking is a myth.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Discuss.
Yeah. Oh man. Well,
it's like four people in a room who quit smoking by vaping. So
it could be
but
true.
They don't want to hear from us.
It could be true if they take it all away from us. That's the only feasible possible way, right? They take it completely away from us. They can't help us quit smoking. And that's what they're trying to do. That's how I look at it. But Phillip, your thoughts?
I'm sorry, I was looking for the Thorazine. What?
You want some Thorazine? I think Charles can sign you a prescription. Or wait, you got a dad. You got
I'm not a real doctor.
Well, you got a pad somewhere.
Pops, can you grab me some atypical antipsychotics on your way to and from? He's a.
I know where you could get some magic mushrooms.
Yeah,
that's the interesting thing. He is so keenly aware of how restricted prescribing things like, you have different types of medications that are grouped together in the same, like benzodiazepines. On one hand, you have some that are extremely dependence habit forming and have very short half-lives, are very strong. And then on the other hand, you have stuff like, for example, Klonopin. Are you familiar with Klonopin? Anyway, it's a very, very long-acting tranquilizer, which has very little in the way of, let's just say, people don't find it fun, and they don't end up becoming, dependent on it and making poor choices. Xanax, different story. And let's just say they're all grouped in the same way, and you just literally have to have so many different DEA clearances to prescribe one. It's kind of crazy. And he was never, really the guy who has to prescribe this or that, or major painkillers. Right? But what he did notice is even Klonopin is a tranquilizer, but it's also a mood stabilizer, and it helps people who have certain neurological conditions, whatever. And then the next thing you know, everyone is suing them, saying, like, you didn't tell me that it could do this to me.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of comes from an old school of, medicine where, well, we actually know more than the board of whatever the hell, because, well, they're basically politicians. That's not untrue. And I think that, I don't know when it was that the world decided that their kids should be raised in part by government, that doctors should be told what they can and cannot do by insurance companies or medical boards, state license boards, based on who is most likely to cry malpractice, because there's no such thing as an instance where you can't cry malpractice. You can cry about anything, whether or not it's warranted or it's an amazing thing that
they'll just pay you out to shut you up.
But what I'm saying is we are in a place where maybe the best thing, I don't know. Tell me what you think. I think a lot of the negative messaging about whether it be vaping or snus or nicotine pouches, I think a lot of it is so ridiculous that the best thing we can do is ignore it.
Yeah,
maybe.
Well, let me ask you.
I'm not saying that we can ignore the American medical. That's a different story. Yeah. They say something ridiculous and reckless and dangerous. I believe that warrants a response. Yeah. Let me see. Pave UK? Absolutely not.
Yeah. I would say so. That list of drugs you just gave is it's like a word salad to me of drugs I've never used.
Benzodiazepines.
I have no clue what these things are.
Okay, benzodiazepines include Valium, Xanax, Ativan, Klonopin, different tranquilizers, and Xanax especially.
What I do know is that 5%. Did I interrupt you? I interrupted.
No.
I'm sorry. No. That's my bad. 5% of American teens are on ADHD meds. Some like unknown, another bundle of them are on autism meds. I don't know how many are on anxiolytics, anti-anxiety meds.
That would fall into.
We're super happy drugging our teens up.
Yeah.
And some of these things are actually addictive.
No, they are.
And public health would prefer that teens use those to using a safer nicotine.
See, this is where I was going with that. You have Xanax, which has a very short half-life. It's extremely potent. It is gives people a high. It just takes away your inhibitions and just puts you at ease in every way. And then it wears off. 7-hour half-life, something like that, and it wears off. And then, of course, tolerance. You know how this works, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But unfortunately, the DEA, FDA, what do you want to say, classifies a drug like Klonopin, which is only similar in its chemical composition. But what it does is it has something like 48-hour half-life, and people do not abuse it, and it's outstanding for mild anxiety, mood stabilization, everything, menopause, all kinds of things. But it is grouped in the same. It's still a benzo, which includes very dangerous drugs like Xanax. I want to say Xanax is one of the few. There's always an ongoing debate about what kind of dependent habit-forming drugs have withdrawal symptoms that can kill. Well, as far as I know, the two that I do know for sure that can do that, one is alcohol. The other one is Xanax.
Yeah.
And it's a terrifying thing. All that said, you have, just like nicotine, you have the tobacco versus smoking. I liken it to, you have cigarettes, Xanax on one end, highly addictive, extremely dangerous, all kinds of, risk factors to consider. But it's grouped in the same category as vapes, i.e. Klonopin, which is very mostly innocuous, and people don't abuse it, and it's taken begrudgingly by people who need it, and it works.
There's nothing rational about the way we approach drugs in this country.
No.
And in most countries, actually.
But at the same time, we need to make sure that, well, at least they admitted the phenylephrine did not clear your sinuses. It's still on the shelves. Thank God.
Sometimes I wonder if it's not the parents that have the anxiety, not so much the kids.
Yeah.
I made sure my parents had the fear of God.
Or the teacher who says they can't handle the kindergartner who tells their parents that they should put their child on some drugs because he's out of control instead of trying to figure out what's going on. I'm one of those that I think we're drugging the shit out of our kids, and that's how I feel. And I kept all my kids off that shit. I said, if my son's hard to deal with, then figure it out. Figure out what's causing this. In the classroom, there could be somebody else making him laugh or doing something stupid. For me, I wasn't going to put my kids on that. Well, let's get back to the statement. So we got way off topic here. Let's get back.
I want to know what Donna Reed was taking in the 50s because I need that.
Yeah. Well, the Food and Drug Administration saying that that this is not an approved product and it's not going to help you quit smoking. Percentage-wise, how many smokers do you feel are looking at that statement and not going to vaping because of that statement? How high do you think of that?
That's an extremely dangerous message, because you can just look at what's happened in the real world. Mm-hmm. Whether it's in New Zealand or the UK or even in Australia. Yeah. The numbers are showing product substitution. You all know I have a number of graphs, and I often say, okay, here's the graph. Here's what happened. If I changed the labels to sales of electric cars versus combustion engine cars, everybody would understand what's happening. Mm-hmm. But when we look at this and it's nicotine vapes versus deadly cigarettes, then it's like everybody's like, gosh, I don't know, there's probably no connection. It's just an association. Correlation is not causation. It's a correlation. And so by my, basically based on the CDC numbers, about at least 8 million U.S. current, 2024 current adult nicotine vapors are ex-smokers. So this is 8 million people who've quit smoking completely. They're not dual users anymore. But there's also scientific evidence showing that about 20% of people quit smoking by vaping and then later quit vaping. So if you kind of project that out over 10 years or a decade, we're looking at least 10 million people have quit smoking with e-cigarettes, with nicotine vapes over the past decade. And to say, and actually the U.S. Jerome Adams, my friend, said something like, the evidence is inconclusive that e-cigarettes, as a general category, contribute to smoking cessation. Wow. What a piece of work that is. Yeah. As a general category, or I'm sorry, it's in general, in general.
As a general category, that
was heavy lifting in that sentence.
Oh my God, well, Brian King has taken a note from him for sure. But are you saying Jerome Adams, the former Surgeon General under?
That was a previous Surgeon General report on whatever the hell it was. Smoking.
Yeah, Jerome Adams had some really bad moments, and I actually thought he was a decent guy who just said some idiotic things at the worst time possible.
Adams.
On the other hand, I do believe that Brian King is the world's most obvious politician, extraordinary. But I also see him looking back, and he wants, everyone has this sort of career where, at first, they're willing to do what it takes to be part of the team. And as, they see their end and, that light at the end of the tunnel, they want to have a legacy of some kind that means something. And they're kind of dialing it back, and they're saying what they want to say, and they're not censoring themselves for whatever idiotic reason. And I see that with him, that I'm not going to be offering him. He's not getting any quarter from me, but let's see if he can't do some good in these last, whatever he ends up. I don't know where he ends up with the Trump administration. For what I understand, he can't actually just be fired quite as easily.
Right.
He can be moved around to different agencies. Hell, I for what I understand,
Philip, let me ask you, you think that he may pull something like that to leave some sort of legacy before he moves on out? And do you think it's going to be something that
I don't think he's very beneficial to us? I don't think he's unaware of how they've been really just pulling every possible punch that could have helped more in terms of understanding the continuum of risk amongst different tobacco products. And I think he has looked back at how many conferences have I said 3 words out and run out the back door. And no, I don't know. I can't tell you what the reasons were for our recent, the ZIN authorizations. I do know that there's a big push to look at the screw-ups with e-cigarette regulation and not make the same mistake with nicotine pouches. And I'm all in favor of that, but don't forego the vapes, man.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well, do you guys?
The last time I talked to Brian King, I complimented him.
As you should. Yeah. No, I hear you.
It was at the last eSig summit, and I said, I really want to compliment you. And the whole audience erupted in laughter. And to his credit, Brian was laughing too.
Yeah.
In DC, or where was this one?
That was the one in DC. Yeah.
Okay. So tell me what was the context?
The content. Yeah.
But he gave the usual talk, and I said, Brian, I said, Dr. King, I really want to compliment you. Paused for the laughter. All of this as straight a face as I could manage. And I said, I'm really complimenting you because you just launched this major new public education campaign to educate 26 million Americans who smoke cigarettes about the relative risks, and that's a really good thing. That's going to save lives. Then I said, I'm not as articulate as I'm going to fumble it now as well, but so I said something about, but there is a kind of contradiction with the fact that your communications department is telling the public that vaping literally causes worms to grow in your brains and literally causes demonic possession.
ED.
And they're proud of that. They're proud of it. That's what gets me.
Well, that's the real cost. And you make a good point, because that is a, anti-smoking, anti-vaping, anti-nicotine campaign that is funded by our government, the FDA. And it is, it's not helpful, that's for sure, and especially not the ones where they're saying you're the devil, which is rude for some of us because no one is supposed to know.
Literally causes demonic possession.
Yeah.
By the way, so we can't get beyond this myth without referencing the pivotal Cochrane systematic evidence review of 68 scientific studies, clinical trials showing that e-cigarettes are more effective for smoking cessation than nicotine patches and gum, and safe up to a few years at least. So no significant problems. Yeah.
And you got the patches.
Just ignore that evidence. You can move on and say, well, they aren't approved by the FDA. For smoking cessation, so they must not be good for smoking cessation.
Well, it's sad because we all know the stats are out there. It shows you what your success rate is if you're using the patch. It shows you the success rate, and we have our numbers, and our numbers are way better than whatever you could do the patch. And what is it? Less than 10% of the people I think it's slower than that, right? Actually, quit smoking from using the patch.
The CDC's own data shows that half the people who have quit smoking in the past, 5 years, did it with e-cigarettes. So
e-cigarettes.
Okay, approve it, authorize it.
Yeah, and let's not spend so much time talking about how much more effective e-cigarettes are than the patch, blah blah blah. Let's talk about how effective e-cigarettes are and how effective it is to give people who smoke or are having a dreadful time kicking the habit every available safer option. That's
exactly
the point.
Yes,
good point.
Right, that's exactly right. So every smoker is different. We need all options to quit. Full stop.
Choice.
For example, I have 2 patches on my back and I have a pouch in my mouth, and I'm enjoying myself.
Let me ask you, Phillip, do you have a defibrillator? Do you have a defibrillator anywhere near you? You may need it.
It's down. It's in the basement.
Oh
but
shit!
It's
Yeah, I mean,
problematic only if he has a severe heart condition.
Yeah, exactly.
Vern is my neighbor. He knows where it is.
He knows where it is. You have your medical alert bracelet on, dude. Just remove the 10 patches on me, and I'll be all right, guys. That's what they're gonna say. Let me do the last one. Let me do the last one here.
Well, that's what Deirdre does.
There are vapes that don't contain nicotine. A study found that 99% of vaping devices contain nicotine. Different e-cigarette brands contain different amounts of nicotine. Some vapes even contain the same amount of nicotine in 20 regular cigarettes. Is this a way to say even the ones that don't have the nicotine you shouldn't use?
It's playing on 4 decades of demonizing nicotine. So the presence of nicotine must be bad. Therefore, e-cigarettes are bad. It's like childish logic, and it's utterly ridiculous. It's like up there with, nicotine is a pesticide, right?
I wonder what they did when cartons of cigarettes came out. Did you know that a carton of cigarettes contains as many cigarettes as 10 packs?
Wait, what? What?
I said, I wonder how they might have treated this when cartons of cigarettes became available to buy. Did you know that 1 carton of cigarettes contains as many cigarettes as 10 full packs? Jesus Christ.
But the carton's cheaper. The carton's cheaper, Phillip.
Like one of the powerful responses to that is how much nicotine is in a pack of nicotine gum.
Yeah.
Right.
Like how many cigarettes is that the equivalent of? And then it becomes, it's very obvious that's a ridiculous argument.
Yes, it is. The most ridiculous argument I can think of. Moving on. Please.
Moving on. What's your favorite color?
What is your favorite flavor? Is it mango by any chance? No, I'm kidding.
Actually, so back in 2018, when all over Manhattan, when I was working in the city, I really started to see a lot less smokers and a lot more adult nicotine vapors. And I stopped like a lot of people, including burly construction workers with hard hats, and said, well, what flavor are you using? And it was almost always mango.
Yeah, baby. Mango, mango, mango.
Yeah, hey, do all you want. It helped a lot of people.
They were not teens.
You should have asked them the second question. Do they like pineapple on their pizza? Because I've noticed people that do like pineapple on their pizza do not like mango.
Drop it.
I have found. I've been running my own study.
Here's something that I'd like to interject for a second. Do you think my experience is that people who smoke, who have a healthy, passionate habit like I once did, who are looking into switching to vapes, e-cigarettes, I believe that that tobacco flavor does have a purpose. Yeah. I think that is what helped me initially get into the dual use phase where I was vaping more than I was smoking, but it was an assortment of choices other than tobacco that helped me stop completely.
Yeah. Now, I think we all started with tobacco, right?
Well, that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, it's not without a good tobacco. It's important. Yeah. For example, Enjoy and Charles, I really want to send you their new pods. This new Enjoy pod, it's a new wick. Their classic tobacco, it's surprisingly good. And I've helped more than a few people start to, after years of making attempts and doing it the wrong way, I've actually gotten a couple of people that I care deeply about to use this a little bit. They're still smoking, but they're using this. And I'm always keeping track of my successes and failures and my need to tell everyone.
But it's actually a really good device, and I have used it. And well, not that particular. If that's a new one, I haven't used that.
It's the same. It's the Enjoy Ace. It's just their new pod safe film on the back. It's just a different, improved type of wicking. It's just
the flavor is the same.
Are they using a different? Are they using a different coil? Do you know the coil different, Phillip? They usually
it's a little bit. It's a little wider, more open. It's a little warmer, and it's just classic tobacco, and it's much better than their original pods. And let's just say, with the exception of the micro USB charging port, God damn it, it's a very good device for what it is, and it's actually the only vaping device that is also that has a menthol pod that's authorized.
But those are not authorized by the FDA, right?
Yes, they are.
Well, those are the authorized ones.
Yes, this is my point. I have to walk around with these.
Right. So I've tried it. That's a more palatable tobacco flavor than some others I've tried, which taste basically like shit. And like
the Juul tobacco
tastes like shit.
Yeah.
And
hey, gentlemen, we have about 6 minutes, and I want to leave that 6 minutes to Mr. Sir Charles to talk about whatever he wants to talk about. And first off, I'll let everybody else do it. Thank you for coming back. We missed you. I told you I missed hitting that. Matter of fact, I'm going to hit it again because I missed doing it so much. Where is it? 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 Right. Where is that? Right there. Sir Charles. It's so good to have Sir Charles back. I miss doing that right there. Miss putting that night up there. So go ahead, Phillip, whatever you got. I'm sorry, Phillip. I'm sorry, Charles. I get the two smartest people mixed up. So go ahead, Charles.
I'm back.
I'm back, Jack.
So just for those who don't know, the reason I kind of dropped out and haven't done any podcasts or interviews is that I didn't want to tip the boat, and I was serving as an expert witness in a big court battle between a big tobacco company called RJR and 3 modestly sized vape firms. And RJR was suing the vape firms, and I was asked to come in by the lawyers to testify about the public health implications of the potential judge's decision. So the judge is going to go this way or that way, and so I wrote up my 94-page report that was fully referenced, and then their expert witness wrote his 94-page report or 90-page or whatever, and then I wrote my 45-page rebuttal, and then he wrote his rebuttal, and so it was a really weird process. I have to say, like, I learned a lot, and it's completely different from the way science works, and I'm glad that I learned that. And I went through what's called the deposition, where the lawyer from the other side interviewed me for a grueling 9 hours. And what my lawyer kept elbowing me because I would like break into laughter at the questions I was being asked. And not like big guffaws, but I would like snicker. And it was because the questions were they were feeding me the standard narrative, which is the same arguments used by the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids and PAVE and these other anti-vaping firms. It's just about addicting children and hooking children and luring children and the toxins, and there are chemicals in there, and all of that stuff. And meanwhile, the company, the tobacco company, they make their own vapes. So it's like, so I had fun doing that, and I would enjoy doing that again as much as I would enjoy having my fingernails pulled out with pliers.
You said 9 hours. Over how many days? I'm curious.
That was one day.
One day.
9
hours.
And then I got to go out with the lawyer and have have a beer.
Yeah, you find out that they're actually real
Yeah.
people after the deposition, which is disappointing because you want to continue to believe that they are, evil people, but they're not. They're doing their job. But sometimes just the ability to sit in a chair and not howl like a hyena at either the hilarity or the insulting nature of the horse shit that they are just literally throwing at you is that is a challenge. And for example, I think Greg was sitting next to me in the Alabama House of Representatives one time, and some guy got up there and said something idiotic, untrue about the harms of youth vaping. And I'm very grateful he was sitting next to me because I think my ass was out of the chair about yape, and I was about to stand up and say something. It didn't really matter what I was going to say, but standing up and saying something out of turn is really it's not a good look.
So that was Greg Conley?
Yes.
I have exactly the same experience. That's funny. Down in South Carolina at a South Carolina House Council meeting, and he was sitting next to me there too. And he said, no body language, no facial expression, no body language. You do not react to what's being said. And then when you get up to give your say, you've got 3 minutes to do it. Set the timer on your smartphone and put it in front of you so you know what you're doing, and so you keep it within that time. I'm so glad he did that. So he's so experienced doing that kind of stuff.
He really is,
and he's a great communicator. We could all learn a lot from Greg.
Yeah, I couldn't say it. Couldn't have said it better.
Don't tell him I said that though.
All right. Anything else you want to touch on, Sir Charles?
I'm not giving Greg any more ego pats than he needs. Yeah, God no. He's very good at that, and let's just say I look forward to having more opportunities to heed his good advice.
Yeah, no, I admire him. I mean, last words. It's like
we missed you. We missed you, man.
We don't know if RFK Jr. is going to be the next Secretary of Health and Human Services. We don't know who's going to be leading the FDA or the CDC. We don't know anything, and everything could change. There, for those of us who think, legalization of drugs, and in particular nicotine, is a good thing, then the fact that libertarians are, have more prominence in the administration might be a good thing. But we have literally no idea what's really going to happen over the next 6 months to a year. Yeah. And so I don't know. It's like I can't predict this, and that's really frustrating.
Yeah. Well, we're used to being frustrated, right? I've been frustrated for almost 15 years. So what's another year? What's another year, man?
The next teen use numbers they're not going to come out for another 6, 7, 8 months, maybe. There's another set of adult use numbers for vapes and cigarettes that should have already dropped for Q3 2024. They're so late. Like they're just literally sitting on the data and not releasing it.
Yeah.
Which agency is this?
CDC.
Okay.
So for the adults, it's the National Health Interview Survey. And by the way, Lindsay Stroud, God bless her, she's on top of a ton of, well, not a ton, at least 2, maybe 3 other major surveys that I really don't follow very much. And she's always kind of like, what about those? And I've stuck with the CDC numbers, and I don't know, because that's what I started with, and I just tried to be consistent. So you can see if a survey is wrong, but what you can see is the trend over time. The trend is probably right. Mm-hmm. And so, Lindsay and I talk about this sometimes, and it's like, well, this survey the SAMHSA survey shows 22 million adults are vaping nicotine now in the United States. But
what survey is that?
SAMHSA, SAMHSA. Don't ask me to tell you what that is. It's part of HHS. And then there's the BRFSS survey, and it's like, so they all show different numbers. But the teen use numbers, they're all pretty close. They're all pretty similar. You know, there's the Monitoring the Future survey from NIH and so on. The adult use surveys are like all over the map.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to know what's really going on with adults. That's very frustrating. We know every goddamn thing about teens. And we all know a lot less about what's happening with adults, which is where all the deaths are.
Yeah.
490,000 tobacco-related deaths every year. So this is a problem.
I think that should go on our list of demands.
I think so too.
All right, Charles. All right, Phillip. We're done. Charles, anytime you want to come back, you know, your door's always open to you. If you see something we're talking about, you want to jump in, just send me, Phillip, or Allison a DM, and I'll get you on the show.
Yeah. I don't even know, like, what's the next thing that might drop.
Actually, I have no idea.
I would say, so Dr. Paul Newhouse's mind study results they could drop at any time. They were supposed to drop in the fall of last year. So that would be really interesting to cover, whether or not nicotine delays the onset of Alzheimer's.
What university is he? Is he in Michigan? Is he in Michigan?
No, Vanderbilt.
Okay, that's right. I should know that. Got it. Newhouse.
Where's Vanderbilt?
Where is it? Nashville.
Who put it there?
Who put it there? Like it's a bad thing that it's in Nashville. Oh, Nashville? What the hell happens in Nashville?
You would be amazed. I have been amazed. The last time I was in Nashville for Michael, actually for some damn game, that place is enormous. Yeah. It's quite cosmopolitan by most standards.
Isn't that where Graceland is?
Yeah, Nashville.
Graceland, I think, is its own. Its own. It's considered its own state.
It's like Venice, or no, I'm sorry, not Venice. I'm thinking the Holy Land. Never mind, not even the Holy Land. I'm lost. Never mind.
I've been there.
Like, it's like upstate New York is to Manhattan. You upstate, and you have no idea where you are. You could be.
I was thinking the Vatican.
Could be in Mississippi.
It's like the Vatican. It's got its own thing. It's the Vatican. There you go. We are out of here, gentlemen. Thank you again, Phillip. Thank you again, Charles. I think Michelle's internet or her battery went dead. I'm not sure. One of the two things happened. We'll see everybody next week. You guys wave at the camera and say goodbye. Bye, everybody. Talk soon.